Hello, my name is John Rose. In this video, I'm going to take a closer look at the worst form of child abuse on this planet. And if you think I might get a little outraged, then you've watched some of my videos. The only times I really explode, and I'm trying to calm myself down today because I can't stand any more stress on my throat, is when I realize what we're doing to our children. And what we need to realize is that every problem that is 100% within our control begins in childhood. Society attacks early when we were helpless, long before we had the ability for critical thinking. We were already indoctrinated into a way of life that guarantees history is going to repeat itself. If we don't have access to history, history will repeat itself. In fact, that's the only way history can repeat itself, is when we don't have access to history. Wake up! None of the history we learn is accurate. Throw it all out so you can accept what comes to you. That will help you wake up and realize that we're being manipulated and controlled at a level we don't understand. Our brains are bombarded with bullshit all of our lives to keep us where we are. So, we have to understand that most of our childhood diseases are parents' mistakes. And what do parents do? They feel sorry if little Johnny can't go to the party and eat in a way that's going to make him sick. What is wrong with us? Oh, poor Johnny can't eat the cake and ice cream. Why feed your children in a way that's going to make them sick? You wouldn't blow smoke in a baby's face, would you? Of course not. But when we don't feed our children the food they're supposed to eat, it's worse. And the big problem is we build up a tolerance to it. Now there's this pleasure and pain paradox where some of our short-term pleasures are actually causing most of our long-term pain. And it's because we build up a tolerance to our mistakes. Remember, piece number 5 is a malfunctioning survival mechanism. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go down and watch the ultimate schematic, right? And then you can go to the ultimate solution, where I identify all 281 pieces. It's a good foundation to understand where I'm coming from. And once you understand these 3 stages of knowledge, you'll be able to finally analyze information and new information and information you got, and you can have epiphanies with it. The one thing I love about the tool I created, my special teaching tool, the ultimate schematic, is I can now use this to study something I've never studied before, or reflect back on something I had thought of for 20 years, like, oh my God, now that I have this tool, I can see where everything fits logically, and I can see the pieces I was missing and realize, oh my God, I've been wasting my time in Plato's cave. That's why there's no meaning in life except to escape this matrix, to escape this cave of ignorance. Sure, we want to endure the best we can while we're here, and there are many things we can do for that, but if we're not getting reconnected, remember, everything else is a distraction. As long as we're getting reconnected, yes, there's a lot of things we got to do down here. And the main thing we have to do is stop teaching our children to eat in a way that's going to make them sick. If something magically happened, and I'm not going to say a virus because that's bullshit, and I know most of you guys have been bombarded with bullshit, so you don't understand what I'm saying. But if something happened to our planet, where everybody above a certain age disappeared, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, let's say. Everybody above 8, or above 7, so all we have is 7-year-olds on this planet. You know what would happen? They would survive. They would figure out how to make it. And you know what else would happen? Our society would still have the same problems we have now. The heart disease, the cancer, the diabetes, the violence, the crimes, the war. And why? Because we already taught them how to make the same mistakes we were taught. Once again, the worst form of child abuse is when we don't teach our children how to eat. That's the first thing we're supposed to do to our children. Every other animal does that. And this is why we can't figure things out, because we keep passing down the same bullshit. Remember, our traditions is the accumulation of all of our wisdom and our mistakes. So when we look at all the great things about us as a species, that's a reflection of all of our accumulated wisdom. And then all the things we can't stand is simply the accumulation of our mistakes. It's so simple. Why can't we look at ourselves and figure out what those mistakes are? It's because the sickest of us wants to keep us where we are. Don't you see? They're exploiting the sickness of man, or sickness in man, They're taking advantage of us. We're easily manipulated and controlled because we are out of control. How did that happen? We cooked our food, destroyed the coherent sunlight energy we're supposed to store in the nucleus of our cells. It's how cells communicate. Without communication, what do you got? Chaos, out of control. Help me, problem, reaction, solution. Help me, help me. Give me anything to give us control. Or make some sense out of this. Yes, I know how hard it is to see the big picture. I know how hard it is to deal with all the references we have that make us not want to look the other way. And many times we don't need to, but how do we know? Well, I'll tell you how to know. I'm saying right now there are 11 main events that have drastically changed the fate of mankind. Our brains doubled in size, just about. Then we mastered 5 things, and we made 5 bad applications to those things we mastered. Most of our problems tie back to these 5 main mistakes. The first of my 3-step process corrects those 5 mistakes on a temporary basis. You are a first-class fool if you don't do this, unless you're already correcting these 5 main mistakes on a permanent basis, which is the second step of my 3-step process, and that's a raw vegan diet. But remember, a raw vegan diet might not work for everyone because some of us might not be able to make certain level 2 nutrients. So our ideal diet might not provide all of the nutrients we need for all of us. For a lot of us it will. But if we're damaged, then we have to address that issue. This is a huge piece of the puzzle that very few people truly understand. And once you understand that, then you are acknowledging your limitations. Because I said this many times, no one has enough wisdom to be able to understand the art in its entirety, because there's too many protocols out there that might be of help. And there are too many symptoms that can happen to people. I mean, you'd have to really just devote your whole life for several centuries, I would imagine, to experience all the ways we could have a warning light go off. And once you realize we don't need to focus on that, and that's how we're being distracted, don't you see? That's why they name the symptoms. Think about it. I said over and over and over, it's all a magic act. It's all one big con. Doctors are the ultimate magicians. It's a sleight of hand. Look over here. What do we got? We don't want to look at that. I want you to look over here. Don't look over here. I want you to look over here. Looky, 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 looky. Looky, looky, looky. Don't look at this. In fact, I want you to look at this so much, I'm going to give names to all the problems we have. You see what I'm saying? That's what doctors do. They simply name the symptoms. We don't want to name a symptom if it's within our control, because in most cases all we have to do is remove the primary causes. But remember, that's only going upstream and getting the knowledge we need. We also have to understand the ripple effect. And now we have to get the knowledge of how to adapt. It's the big piece of the puzzle natural hygienists don't get. They realize there's a battle between the science and the art, our essential needs and our 2 additional temporary needs. Get the 12 essential, 2 additional temporary needs. And the people who understand knowledge of how to live most of them don't understand the knowledge of how to adapt. But what happens, and I can understand their frustration, is that this knowledge will solve most of our problems, but not all of them. And then most people who have the art have no idea of the science. So you can see the animosity sort of like, rah, 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 rah. You know, you're ignoring the science, you're ignoring the science. And then what they do is they don't, again, no one has enough knowledge of the art to know all of this, so they just generalize all of it, saying, because you don't understand the science, to hell with all of y'all. And I could also understand this, I was thinking about it before, that I also can see why they might say, no, we don't want to use any of the art, because what can happen is the art can take away our motivation, and then we might not go back to the science and correct our mistakes, you see? That's the problem with using certain modalities like herbs, for example. Hey, I can make a mistake, take this herb, won't have the symptom. Yeehaw! It's like a drug, it's a magic act. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to disconnect our feedback system. But if we're suffering and we're removing the primary causes, then by all means, we can facilitate the process by using herbs or anything else. So you have to understand, I've said it thousands of times, you have to apply the science first, and you never apply the art without the science. You never use the herbs without changing your diet. And if you do change your diet, realize our ideal diet only satisfies one of our 2 groups of needs we must satisfy. And people use this as an excuse, well, this isn't our ideal diet, then how can it be our ideal diet if we supplement? I've already told you, there's 2 groups of needs. We're damaged. Should I say it again? We're damaged. And that means we have to address that. So, the main thing I want to address is let's stop teaching our children the same mistakes that we were taught. Number one thing from here on out, there should be a law saying, okay, from here on out, we cannot pass down this mistake in our traditions. And I know it's a big part of our traditions. Oh my God, it's really part of our traditions. Look at how cooking plays in traditions. It's huge, isn't it? But that's what's getting us in trouble. We don't want to continue to blindly cling to the vices of our ancestors. We have to acknowledge they made a mistake. They got addicted to it. Now we're addicted to it. We can break this spell. There's a way to overcome the spell we're under, the hunger spell. And it's going back to what I said moments ago. We have to correct these 5 main mistakes. And if we do it on a temporary basis, it's not as threatening. More people will do this. And when you correct all 5 mistakes, whether or not you think some mistakes are mistakes or not, just correct them all and let's see what happens. And you'll see for yourself, my God, I thought I was correcting the other mistakes and I was still making that one. Maybe that's a mistake too because I'm feeling different. How can that be? Think about it. You see? What if you already acknowledge, well, I say we should correct these 3 mistakes. That's what the paleo people are doing. That's what the vegans are doing, the vegetarians, right? They just choose between pieces 1 and 2, or mistakes 1 and 2, or 1 and 3. So what I'm saying to you guys, stop making those 2 mistakes and I can prove to you they're mistakes because your life is going to go to another level, my friends. Don't you want to prove that to yourself? Of course you do. I know you do. So get excited. And if you're not pumped up enough, look at the description box below and listen to the Dr. Rober interview. It is so exhilarating. He was on day 21 of a solid food vacation. And he's a medical miracle. Never felt better. This is what I hear all the time. Watch the Deborah Duncan show. Look at the women, the men. Look how they transformed. And then go to my seminar. And when you do this, my friends, I guarantee you, you're in for a treat.